Evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Syon and Brentford Area Forum. Feels like such a long time since we were last together. The last one was cancelled, obviously, because of the election. I hope you enjoyed some delicious food and had some time at the stalls. So let's crack on. Item number 1 is apologies for absence, declarations of interest. Any other communications from members? Anyone? No. If you don't know me, my name is Dan, and if you do know me, my name is Dan as well. I'm a councillor in Syon and Brentford Lock. I am the chair, and if we just introduce everyone else, let's start with Marina.
Hello, good evening. I'm Councillor Marina Sharma for Brentford East.
Hello, good evening. I'm Councillor Rhys Williams, also representing Brentford East.
Hiya, I'm Emma Yates. I'm a new councillor for Brentford West. Nice to meet you all.
Hi everyone, Councillor Catherine Dunn, Syon and Brentford Lock, and I am also the Council Cabinet Member for Climate, Environment and Transport.
Thank you. I'm not Balrose. I'm Guy Lambert. Good afternoon. Good evening. I'm a councillor for Brentford West. Is that all you wanted from me?
Yeah.
I'm Bill, I'm the clerk, I'm not a councillor for anywhere at all.
Now I'm going to hand over to Catherine, who's going to do a tribute for Jim Cope.
Thank you, Dan. So I don't know how familiar people are with Sergeant Jim Cope, but he was the police sergeant for the West Area neighbourhood. Which is we are the West Area, so it's west of London, not west of the borough. And he I think he was mainly based in Chiswick, but he also had dealings with a lot of people in Brentford as well. Jim was very highly regarded, an excellent police sergeant, but also a wonderful human being, and so many people, upon hearing of his death, have talked to me about him and about just how professional he was, how empathetic, but also, you know, on a personal level, lots of people are very, very sad to hear of his passing. And unfortunately, Jim did die following having a brain tumour. So very, very sad and very upsetting for him. Our thoughts rather, go to his family and his friends. Besides his job in the police, Jim was always raising money for charity. He was due to go on a bike ride shortly from London to Paris to raise money for in fact, I think I've got this right, for a cancer charity, but he also did work with refugee groups as well. So we're all very sorry and sad that Jim is no longer with us.
Thank you, Catherine. And with the consent of the room, I'd ask the clerk to pass on the condolences of the community to the family via the police. Can I assume everyone's in favour of that? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so next up we have Mabel Ogundayo. Did I pronounce it right, Mabel? I've been practising. We've got Mabel from Hadley. So Mabel, I think we've got a mic for you over there. Not to be confused with the helmet. Is that Guy's?
Good evening, everybody. We've only got a couple of minutes, so Good evening, everybody. We've only got a couple of minutes, so I'll try and be quick. My name's Michael Clark. I'm the Design Director for the Hadley Property Group. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Hadley, and then Mabel's going to tell you a little bit about how we do what we do. The Hadley Property Group have been in business for over 20 years, delivering complex mixed-use regenerative projects. Indeed, 980 Great West Road, or the GSK building, is exactly that, complex, and it will be regenerative. We've assembled a world-class team with a world-class brief to deliver a world-class solution. Part of that process will be engaging with the community, engaging with the local officers and the planning authority and wider stakeholders to understand exactly what it is that you would like out of this particular scheme. I've got a personal connection to this. I was an architect and urban designer in a previous life, and one of my buildings was 980 Great West Road. So I know a little bit about the site, a little bit about the community, and a little bit about the building. Part of the last 12 months since we bought the building has been about information gathering, and the design team has been in exactly that, understanding what is special about the site, what is special about the area, and what is special about the place that we can then use as the basis for giving them a detailed brief to start the design process in the next month or so, when we hope to be able to, in future, come to these meetings with some drawings to show you. So if I could hand over to Mabel now.
Hi everyone, I'm Mabel. So I also work for Hadley. I lead on their communications and social value. I really want to hope that I'm right in thinking that everyone in this room knows that we have acquired the GSK site, because part of what we do is making sure that the local community, the existing local community, are very much genuinely involved in developing of our site. So I might have met some of you at either the Brentford Market when we had a store there, or the Clay Ponds Community Day, and we've also held 2 early engagement events at Boston Manor House and the Potting Shed. So over the process of the planning application, we'll be doing a lot more community engagement, a lot more consultation events, and I'll be sure to make sure that those details are passed on here so you can hear about them yourself, and hopefully you get letters to your doors and all the likes on social media and everything else. As many of you as possible are involved in this development. But in line with that as well, part of what we do is co-design, which is making sure the community have a genuine say about the development. And so we've brought on Neighbourly Labs, who will tell you a little bit about that process.
Thanks, Mabel. And I hope this clicker works. Wonderful. So my name is Grania, and as Mabel mentioned, I work for an organisation called Neighbourly Lab. We're a non-profit research organisation, and our focus is on how you can create stronger and more connected communities. So we're working with the Hadley team to apply that same logic to the GSK site, and doing what Mabel mentioned are co-design workshops. So just to explain co-design for anyone who's never been involved in an experience like that before, it's where you're set a challenge or a particular topic area to work towards, and then people come together to develop solutions. So in this instance, we have 6 sessions, and I'll chat you through each of them, but essentially the flow of the session will be members of the community joining in with ourselves from Neighbourly Lab, members of Hadley, the design team, the architects, so that the voices of the community are really represented in what will be created. So if we use the first session as an example, there will be accessibility and navigation as a really key part of this site. How can people actually access the space? What will be important in terms of accessibility from a perspective of buggies or people with additional access needs, and also just general accessibility, so really important. The second session will focus on green, blue and play spaces, so that will be sort of parks, canal space obviously as well, right next to the site, as well as play spaces for both younger and older children. The third session will focus on safety and safe spaces, thinking about how whatever is created within that space can feel extremely safe for all members of the community to engage at any time of day and night, and what will be the key elements for that. The fourth session will look at amenities and facilities. So what are the things that are really in need in this particular area at the moment? What would you love to see? What do you feel is missing? And building that in. The fifth session will be with young people specifically. We've heard from a lot of engagement with the community, and Hadley have done a lot, and we've built on that and spoke to hundreds of residents. There's a big sense that there's a need for young people to have services and opportunities as part of this development, so we will be listening to that. And then the final session is to be decided. We're working through all of the responses we've heard from the community to date to decide what that last session will be about. But the reason I'm here today is to invite you all to get in touch if you're interested in being part of those sessions. So Jake's email address is here at the bottom, and Jake is at the back. But essentially, if you are interested, please do get in touch. We will be sending out an update with details of what the co-design is all about, and inviting people to express interest if you are interested. We will only be able to select a number of residents to be part of that, just sort of with the volume that we can manage at those sessions, but anyone who isn't involved in those sessions will be involved in later consultation that Mabel mentioned. There will be lots more opportunities to feed in. So I think that's
Thank you very much. We're going to have some questions after we've heard, we're going to hear from Richard just now, and then Imogen. So we'll bring you back up for questions, but thanks for that, and thanks for being brief. That was good. We've got a big agenda tonight. Thanks, guys. So, easily confused with Clark Kent, we now have Richard Pearce, who's going to talk to us about what's going on at Ballymore.
Evening all. I've only got a few minutes, so we'll crack straight in. Hopefully you've all been to the Brentford project, Brentford High Street. So here, just give you a bit of an update really as to where we are in terms of programme and retail delivery. So there's a plan there in front of you, which is our phasing plan. The areas in yellow are completed. So you can go down and enjoy the water, and we've got Sam's Waterside that are opened, and the shopping centre. We've got Everyman Cinema opening up early next year. And we've just gone under offer with a pub group, which is taking the ground floor of the one of the green units on the south of what we call Plot C, which is Lewis House. And we've now also gone under offer with our final High Street unit, which is on the northern side of Lewis House, to a very well-known nationwide retailer. I can't say who it is, but they're going to be a great addition to the High Street. Phase 2A is the area in pink. So that's coming forward as we speak. You may have seen demolition happening. We've got piling hoping to start in the next couple of weeks with the delivery of plots J and E, which is, unfortunately there's no names on there, but it's the bottom sort of horseshoe building, what we call plot J. That one will complete in early 2027. And then plot E, which is the one just up to the right above it, roof and house, you can just see there, which again is in early 2027, February and March 27. We also have what we call the High Street listed buildings, which are were supposed to come forward as part of phase 1, but unfortunately due to Historic England and us getting our listed building consent, it's meant they've been delayed, and they will also come forward with phase 2A. So hopefully by the end of this year, you'll start to see some real traction on the buildings, which are in the pink in the top left-hand side of that plan. We've then got phase 2B, which is the blue and the orange. But that will come forward at a later date when funding comes forward. Next one. That's a similar plan without the phasing. The slight change you'll see on the south side of Lewis House, there's a quite change in configuration of the F&B units. That is the latest plan. So the pub is taking the much bigger unit, and then we've got Santa Maria Pizza taking the one on the left. That's that. In terms of some new CGIs that we can show you that are hot off the press, we're looking to launch plot E, which is roof and house, in the next week or so. So I think we've got some CGIs here that I can show you of what we're looking to do. Oh, sorry, yep. Back there. One more. There we go. That's fine. So just go on to a couple of CGIs. That's a drone shot looking down at plot J I talked about, which is the horseshoe building. But the one we'll be launching very soon is plot E, which is the green building just in the distance there. That is Johnson's Island in the middle, absolutely, yeah. That's a visual looking back from Town Wharf at Roof and House, so plot E, which is the building we'll be launching, the green building. That's a shot looking with the high street to sort of behind you. We've got some fountains creating a plaza. We're looking to introduce more family dining into that location. And that's just a final aerial shot looking back with phase 1 in the sort of forefront, and then phase 2A just behind it. But you can see the progression that we've managed to achieve over the last 4 or 5 years since we started on site back in early 2019. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Richard. We will bring you back up for questions, but thanks a lot. And next up, we have Imogen from Barclays St Edward. Hi, Imogen.
Hello, is this working? Great. Hi everyone, it's really nice to see you. We've met some of you, but we haven't met many of you. I'm here with my colleague Will Temple. Got his hand up over there. We are the development team leading this project day to day. You might be aware, there we go, that's working. You might be aware, hopefully, that we've got planning permission to develop 2 sites on Syon Lane. But before I show you them, if I could just introduce St Edward for anyone who hasn't met us. St Edward is a joint venture. It's a joint venture between the Barclay Group and M&G. As part of the Barclay Group, we delivered 10% of London's homes annually, affordable and market homes. We're really passionate about placemaking, about creating developments that give back to the community. We're the only developer in the country focused on brownfield development, and so that means that we take a really long-term view on investment. This is a very long-term, significant investment, and we're really, really pleased to be investing in Hounslow. It's not our first development in Hounslow. You might be familiar with these 2 developments, Kew Bridge and Chiswick Gate. But I suppose this is a step change in scale, what we're doing at Syon Lane. So we have planning permission for these 2 developments here. The former home base development, we have detailed planning permission for 473 homes, and importantly, a brand new Tesco Extra store. The Tesco Extra store, moving on to home base on the Great West Road, is what unlocks the delivery of over 1,600 homes on the former Tesco site. So these 2 sites together will deliver over 2,000 new homes, which is a key point in kicking off the opportunity area here on the Great Western Road, where the GLA are expecting 7,500 new homes to come forward, alongside a significant number of new jobs. So what this site also does is allow us to retain all of the Tesco jobs and to create new jobs, commercial space on the Tesco site. So in all, we're expecting around 650 new jobs to be supported, total jobs to be supported across these 2 sites alongside the 2,000 new homes. Importantly, is this going to work? There we go. So that's the connected master plan for the 2 sites. The image on the far right is the Tesco site, where we're delivering the Tesco at the ground floor and then homes above. The bigger site on the left is the current Tesco Osterley site, where we're delivering the 1,600 new homes. Importantly, for anyone who isn't familiar with the plans, really important questions are how are you going to support these new jobs? What about GPs, etc.? We agree that's really important, so we're delivering a new GP facility on that site alongside a new community space and about 50,000 square feet of commercial space. So that site has outline planning permission. That means that we'd be back to you to engage you in the final design for that proposal. The master plan you can see here is outlined. That means we know what the broad capacity of that site is, but it's really important that we work with you on the detailed design of that, the types of spaces that come forward, etc. So we'll be back in touch, I hope, next year to start talking about that with you. Hopefully you've seen these CGIs, and I'm short on time, so I won't linger on them for too long at all. But the other key question is obviously, well, we've got planning permission, so what's happening? The Homebase store, Tesco vacated the Homebase store several months ago. It's now vacant, and we're looking to bring it down shortly. We'll be in touch with you before we do, but we hope that we can demolish it quite soon now, in the early autumn. The next stage would then to be doing demolition works, enabling works across the site, and then we'll start construction in earnest in 2026. We expect the first delivery to be around 2030. It's a long construction with needing to deliver the home base first, Then we start occupying homes above, including 35%, so 164 social rented homes. And at that point, we'll be able to move on to the Tesco site. So the other key question we're asked is, will Tesco close and I won't have a Tesco? No, Tesco won't close until we open the brand new store. It will happen overnight. I'm sure there are many other questions. So whenever you do have them, please do get in touch. We've got a QR code there and a website. We've got it at the back if you'd like to come and get it afterwards. And the other thing we'd ask is that as we move into construction, there'll be employment and skills opportunities. It's really important that we're talking to you regularly, so we'd like to set up a community liaison group if you would like to be involved in that group that represents the community and feeds back questions and concerns. Please get in touch. We're looking for members. Equally, we're looking for charity partners. So if you think that you have an organisation that aligns with our key impact goals, which are on the website, please get in touch again. We'd love to see if we can support you. So that's my whistle-stop tour.
Brilliant. Thank you, Imogen. And I'd formally like to invite you to come back to the Area Forum in 2041 to give us an update if I still am the chair. So if Richard and the Hadley guys could come back up. And just to start, I'd just firstly like to say thanks to you guys for coming. And we'll come. You can ask a question when I've finished. Before we go to questions, I'd like to say thank you to you guys for coming, and I'd like to point out to everyone that they don't have to be here. I've asked them to be here because I know that these are the things a lot of residents want to know about, and they're my guests. So whilst I'm sure they're expecting robust questions, what I'm expecting from everyone is politeness and courtesy. Does anyone have any issue with that? Wonderful. So before we move to the first question, and you were the first person with your hand up, but before we do that, if you have a question, just so I can get an idea of how many questions you're expecting, if you have a question, could you please raise your hand, or if you think you might have a question? Okay. I'm sure some more will come out of the woodwork. We don't look overrun. So if we could get the microphone down to this lady here. Just raise your hand again, madam. You were first. No, you're going to need that, Richard. If you're happy to say your name and where you're from.
My name is Naz Merey. I live in Boston Manor Road, near the station, Boston Manor Station. Now, Tesco in Isleworth has got big parking space. When they moved to the new place, which is home base previously, there is not enough area for a parking down there, and plus you're building houses above that. When you go to shopping, you need a car, definitely.
Thank you for. I think.
Do they have enough parking facilities for the shoppers?
Yes, it's a good question, and thank you for asking. It's not the first time anyone's asked, and it's really important. I suppose the key thing is that Tesco are our development partner on this, and that if they thought that we weren't delivering them enough parking, they wouldn't be entering into this deal with us, and they wouldn't be agreeing to the new store plan. So what we're doing is currently there's 625 parking spaces at Tesco. They have excess capacity of spaces. They think they've got about 200 spaces more than they need. So what we're doing is we're delivering 400 new spaces on the new site, which is what they believe will allow their store to continue completely as usual. That store, where currently it's open air parking, it's now, I wish this had a little pointer, but the image in the top right is the home base site. The bottom sort of podium level, as it were, it runs around the whole of the site, has Tesco at the ground floor. You go upstairs to 2 levels of parking where you can get your 400 spaces using the travelator. So we're providing all of the parking that Tesco believe they need, and that frees up the Osterley site.
Yeah.
400.
400,
so
it's going down from 625 to 400.
Can we? I really want everyone to speak and have a voice, but because of accessibility, if anyone's got any hearing issues, and also because this meeting is streamed live, if you could wait for the mic to come before you speak, that'd be great. I think there's a question behind.
Maybe it's a better transport system.
Speak into the mic.
Oh, maybe a new bus service going to Boston Manor Road, up the road, you know, if someone wants to go to Tesco, I can't go. It's too far for me to go.
Yeah, I hear you. So there's a couple of things that we are doing for local transport. So we're making £1.7 million in bus contributions to improve the buses. Now, my understanding is they're going to be focused on the H89 and the H91. And there'll also be an extension to the E1 bus service we know is coming forward. We understand TfL have funding for that. So absolutely, our next step is to engage with TfL to make sure that those upgrades are coming. And that's definitely what we'll start doing now.
Thank you, Imogen. Julie, you weren't normally. Julie gets the question in first.
I know, I'm slowing up a bit.
You've got a rival, but Julie, what's your question?
Right, two. First of all, I'd like to thank Hadley for coming down to the Clay Ponds event. Hopefully you had a lovely time and you're welcome again next year. It's our 30th year, so more than helpful supporters. The other one is actually Valerie Moores. Not being funny, you're promoting everything to do with the new flats. What are you giving residents who live in the rest of Brentford? We're not getting no discounts. We're not getting nothing. To me, we're being forgotten. You're promoting one side of it, but not the other. You've got all these new shops, but where's the support coming for the rest of Brentford? We're being forgotten left, right and centre. And I think it's about time you started looking back that there are more residents that live in Brentford than just the Brentford new development.
Richard.
Percy, I'm sorry to hear that. That's your view. Yeah, obviously that's the last thing we want to be thought about. This summer, as a good example of us giving back to the community, was a free cinema on the water in a new area that we'd developed. We partnered with a cinema group. It was not cheap, and we felt that was a great way of giving back to families and young couples and elderly, whoever it is, to come down and enjoy a free cinema, and obviously then hopefully use the retail areas that are down there, whether that's supermarket that we've delivered or the various retail premises that we've also opened up. So look, that's a real shame. That's your thoughts, but look, we feel like we are giving back.
Thank you, Richard. And any other questions? Yes, Asif.
Thank you very much for providing us an opportunity and all the officials. My question is accessible housing, Equality Act, and also the regeneration of Brentford. Could you please tell us that those people who are living with the disabilities, not accessible properties, and what are the opportunities and the projects for catering the existing people with disabilities living in inaccessible places? Thank you.
Thank you, Asif. So anyone want to talk about accessibility in housing?
If I can just say that it's obviously one of the key issues in any new housing development, and the legislation which we have to collectively work with ensures that there is a proportion and the percentage of residential properties that are accessible in every sense. One of the briefs that we've given to our design team across the GSK site is that it's not just the properties, but the entire area, so all of the public realm, all of the spaces and places that we'll hope to be creating are all in every way accessible for all people.
Imogen, do you want to come in on that?
Thank you. I suppose if I just were to add on the Syon Lane developments, we've got 10% of the homes, of the affordable homes that we're delivering on the first phase will be wheelchair adapted homes, so fit out, ready for occupation by people who have extra needs, and that's secured in the planning permission, so guaranteed to come forward.
Sorry, just to quickly add, we've delivered 10% accessible wheelchair adaptable homes within Brentford Waterside.
You know, for those residents of Brentford who are living with disabilities but in inaccessible place. I'm talking about those. Are they going to be a given replacement to what you have mentioned that we have considered into the new development? I'm talking about the existing disabled people living in inaccessible housing.
I think that might be more suited for the open forum. Really important question. We're having the open forum later. I think bring that back then. I think, was there a question? Raise your hand if you've still got a question. I think we've got one here, two here, one there.
Thank you. My name is James Curran. I live in Clifton Road in Brentford. I remember at the start of the Ballymore constructions, the meetings that we had then, the meetings Ballymore had with the community, there was talk of infrastructure to a small degree, that a new school would be in place, a new surgery. None of those things seem to have happened. And with vast numbers of people moving into Brentford and a new development happening in Osterley, I think you said there was a GP. That I'm taking it, you mean a surgery of some sort with GPs. But there is still a huge number that don't seem to be catered for, and I don't know where all the kids are going to go to school. The GPs, certainly that I use, is inundated with people now. It's hard to get appointments. I'd like to know what sort of infrastructure is planned, and I'm assuming the council would have a say in this. So, yeah.
Thank you. I think just before I give Richard a chance to respond in terms of what, because I know that the contributions to infrastructure have been significant from Ballymore, a couple of things. Firstly, we went on a large school extension and school building programme in the borough approximately across the last 10 years. We've seen new schools built in Brentford. We've seen schools extended. The situation we find ourselves now is actually the roll numbers for schools are falling. Less people apply. In fact, my son is in year 4, and they're moving from 4 classes in year 4. It's shrunk down to 3 because there are less children going to school, a number of different reasons. In terms of medical facilities, you're absolutely right, it's really important. We heard from Imogen what's happening on the Tesco Homebase site. That is, to a degree, we work in partnership with the NHS and with GPs, but they are a separate entity, and we're supporting them both financially and in other ways in expanding. And there are big plans for the Brentford Medical Centre to change and get bigger. So that's the sort of context we're in. But Richard, if you want to talk about contributions to infrastructure, please.
Of course I can touch on that. There has been significant contributions to infrastructure through such Section 106 contributions, so whether that's transport, education, health, so in the tens of millions of pounds, so big numbers to delivery of phase 1 and phase 2. So unfortunately there isn't anything within the development as part of the master plan. That was done a long time ago when we received planning back in 2014. And the decision then was obviously made that from a place-making position, the infrastructure was better placed off the direct location of Brentford. And so we have therefore made our contributions through Section 106.
Thank you.
So could I ask one more question? It is regarding infrastructure insofar as the Waterman's Art Centre has closed.
We're going to, I will take that question. I want to take that in the open forum, to just questions for developers here. So hang on, park that question, and I think there'll be other people in the room who'll be interested to that. We'll cover that in the open forum. Chris, can we come down here? There's a question. On your right. And then there's one at the back and one over there.
Margaret Mason, I live at Brentford Dock. Just a quick question about to Ballymore. We've got some nice new streets that have been created down the side of Morrison's and down the side of Gales and so on. No street lighting. And it's not very pleasant to walk down those streets when they're so dark in the winter.
It should be in, it's not in, it's going in very, very soon.
When?
I can get back to you with a date. I don't know exactly when, but there's some festoon lighting all between the buildings that needs to go in. Yeah, it was delayed because of Everyman.
Richard, perhaps you could leave contact details.
Yeah, of course I can.
Okay, we are quite behind time, so Chris, that means your presentation is going to have to be shorter. I think we had a question. Was there a question at the back? No, cancelled. There was a question over there on this side, Chris, over here.
Thank you. My name is Javier Blas from Brentford local area. Just a quick question for Mr. Pierce of Ballymore, which is what are your plans for the St. Lawrence Church, both immediate and kind of medium term? Thank you.
In the short term, so we've completed the shell works. So we've taken a building which was on the risk register with Historic England and spent a considerable amount of money in terms of bringing forward that building to a shell condition. So that's new windows, new doors. We put in a bat loft, which has rehomed the brown long-eared bat. We had to put a bat loft in. They've now come back, which is great. So we've now got a building which is available for tenants to come forward and take on permanent long-term leases. So we're in conversations with a number of parties for that space. It will be a space for the public in terms of people to use, an F&B space, a leisure space. That is the plan. And in the interim, we've got a number of events that are happening. You may have seen the archaeological event that happened a few weeks ago. And we've got another event, I believe, coming up in October with a concert happening. I say a concert, it's probably a bit of an overkill, but some sort of a venue evening on a temporary basis.
Thank you, Richard. Bob, did you have a question? Bob, did you have a question?
Mine's more
Just wait for the mic.
Oops, sorry, I've got someone's given me a glass of water at the same time as the microphone. Just very simply, it's a nice statement. 4 years ago, Brentford Voice set up with a number of neighbours around the Ballymore site a liaison group. Meets once every 3 months, and we have our list of questions for Richard and his colleague, and he does his best to answer them. All I would say, I think it's been for our side at least, been a very useful device, and I was delighted to hear other people are going to do the same kind of thing. But I say it has been a success. End of story.
Thank you for the positive feedback, and I'm sure it's the highlight of Richard's month. Do we have any other questions? Yep, just one over there.
I'm Sue Rowe from Brentford Lock West. Although not directly, I hope not directly affected by the pile driving that's about to start, I am when I'm working at Kew as a volunteer. Can you give us an indication how long that's going to go on for?
Sorry, are you talking about the
piling?
The piling.
So we've got two types of piling that'll be happening. So we've got the piling for the buildings. So the building which will probably most impact Brentford Dock is the horseshoe one, and that should be starting this month. Without getting into too much detail, there's a new Building Safety Act that's come in quite recently, which we are having to tackle. And unfortunately, it's meant that there is a slight delay to that piling. But we're hopeful that will happen in October. Now, the plan would be to push the piles, not to hammer the piles, and therefore there shouldn't be too much of an impact to yourselves. The other piling we'll be doing is the river wall piling. So around Town Wharf, there'll be new sheet piling going in, and that is due to start in Q1, Q2 potentially of next year.
Thank you. Deborah, did you have a question? Look at me. Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. Question for Imogen, please. Although it might spill over into the general one. Delighted to hear that you're making space for a new GP surgery. My usual question. Given the timings, looking at 2030, 2032, is that when you would expect that to come online? Or before that?
Well, 2030 is when the Tesco site will first become free to start demolishing the Tesco store. So I expect it probably would be a couple of years after that. Now, we haven't worked through the final design for anything on that site, so we don't have a construction programme for when that will come forward specifically. I understand the intention behind your question, I think, which is that is the infrastructure coming early on, or is it going to be coming at the end? And I think it's key to placemaking. So our aspiration would not be that it would be the last thing to come forward, but we need to develop a design for that site, consult the community, and get detailed planning permission before we could work that through.
Okay, just a point of clarification. You said there was a design for a GP surgery. I recall somebody saying it was home base. But I think you've just implied it's actually the Tesco Osterley site where the GP surgery is going?
It's on the Tesco site, yes, because the home-based site is taken up by the Tesco store at ground floor.
So that's where the new surgery is, so that could be 2040. Lovely. And how many practices would be going in there, or GPs, do you know? It's too early.
It's too early at the moment.
Okay. I know there were plans when the Great West Quarter was originally set up, but they were unfortunately very much under, serviced, if you like. There just wasn't enough space. So I do hope that that does. But that is a long time. Somebody's already mentioned how long it takes to get an appointment at GP surgeries in Brentford at the moment. So I realise that's not your personal responsibility. And then perhaps we're going to talk about the Brentford practices later, but it is an urgent issue, particularly with all this building going on.
Thank
you, Dan.
If there's no more questions, then thank you to all of us guests for coming. I really appreciate it, and it was really informative. Thank you very much. And next up, we have a section on the steering group, which is going to be done by Chris Jarvis. Chris.
Afternoon all, how are we? Just want to send my apologies on Thomas, who couldn't be here, so hence I'm going to go into the steering group. So we did kickstart it back in March with our breakout sessions, just giving you a feel of what the steering groups are going to be. But now we've come into the second stage of introducing what the actual community steering groups is, just to give you a more understanding and how we will be working closely together. All right? Bear with me, guys. I do apologise for that.
I know I said we're short on time, but you are
Yeah,
really
here we are,
whistling
look at
through
this.
it. I think we had this section was meant to finish it at so as brief as you can without missing the key message.
I will be brief. No, so just thank you all for attending. So just a quick introduction of what the steering group is. So with the community stakeholder steering groups, like what they are. So what it is it's an informal group of residents like yourselves, as well as local organisations and community groups, as well as our partners, with our direct interests in the community and selected themes when it comes to our forums. And it's also a way for the community to support the chair, to plan and deliver a relevant and exciting area forum like we have so far, but really take it up a notch. So it means to support an active participation from our residents and our community groups and partners within the forums. What they are not is a replacement of the officer group. So support us with, like myself, supporting your local councillors, and just a formal constituted groups with power over the chair of the forum. So what could a steering group be? So we recommend We recommend agenda items to the relevant chosen theme, which will then lead into recommended services and our community organisations to participate in the area forum. This will then lead into suggestions to best formats to discuss the chosen subjects and theme, example presentations, we have our breakout groups, etc., leading on to different things. This will then lead into kind of playing a leading role at the event itself, for example, facilitating any workshops, any breakout discussions, or conducting surveys that you want to see in your area forum. We could then plan that and have that within our forums leading forward. That is mainly the gist of what a community group steering group will lead into. If there is any questions, as we are short on time, do flag it to me at the end. But in the open forum of these discussions, I'll take them as
if
well.
anyone's got some questions for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, this is about the community being involved and inputting into what happens at these area forums. We want the area forums to be things that the community wants to talk about. That's what the steering group is. So any questions for Chris on that? Derek, can we get a mic? Can we just get a microphone?
Okay, thank you. Hello, I'm Derek. How do you participate in one of these?
Do get in contact with myself when I get you on the list. A simple sign up.
Yeah, if you want to be on the steering group, please speak to Chris, Chris afterwards. Derek, I've already blacklisted you, so you won't be able to join. There's a question, Julie at the back, then Sheridan at the front.
Just a quick question. How are you going to get young people to it? Because as you can see, there's not many young people here today. They are our generation of tomorrow, and we should be including them coming along, having to say what they want to hear.
No, I 100% agree with you, Julie. This was flagged to me in the last forum as well. So what's happening in my next stage, I have engaged a lot more of the youth, and I'm now working closely with the Youth Council to really get the youth more involved in our area forums, because it will be good to hear their voices and their opinions within the community, because they are the next generation for us.
And just to add to that, all councillors would completely agree with that. We'd love to have more young people here. I suppose we're perhaps not the most interesting, exciting prospect for a Tuesday evening for a young person to be here, but we'll keep working on it. Sheridan.
Hi. Probably a silly question, but how many steering groups would you have, and how many people in a steering group?
The number can be endless, but ideally it would be a community steering group where at least by 5 to 10 members within the residents' organisations, or if you residents pull together, at least 5 to 10 and within the community steering group.
And there's also scope for different steering group, you know, if we've got a focus on
That is correct.
on one area where people might have more expertise. So there's a fluidity to it. Any more questions for Chris? No? Then thank you very much, Chris.
No, thank you.
And if you are interested in being involved in the steering group, please do speak to Chris afterwards. Give him your email address. So now we move on to the open forum. So this is an opportunity for the public to address the meeting on general issues. One thing I will say, if it's an individual issue, if it's sort of casework, it's, you know, my neighbour plays their music too loud, what can be done about it? That's not really suitable for a community discussion. But if you do have any individual issues, please speak to any of the councillors afterwards and we will pick that up. So, do we have any questions? One right at the back. Good timing, Emily.
Things that hasn't been mentioned, obviously I know that we've been talking to the existing developers and future developers, but the Great West House, which has been granted some form of forward planning, something or other, and might potentially be developed to house, I think, 4,000 people in a lesser number of dwellings. I don't know what it is. Surely that's also an integrated part of the need for GP surgeries, dentists, schools, etc. If that is a development that's going ahead. Certainly we've had notification and it would very much impact travel, cars, just general usage of infrastructure. So it's got to, if it's being thought about, and we as the community are being invited to talk to you guys about your development and vice versa, then surely that has to be a consideration as well. You can't just bolt it on without regarding it as a whole.
Absolutely. I've got Guy Lambert who wants to come in on that.
I know quite a lot about Great West House because when I first came to Brentford in the 80s, I was the building manager for the smaller one of those two buildings, so I know it very intimately. What's happening? What happened when we were there is the landlord sold it to a family from Sweden who ran it for a bit, and I believe it's now owned by somebody from the Middle East. They have been talking about redeveloping it in different ways, which did not satisfy the council. And what's happened now is that they've put in for what's called prior approval, which we have absolutely no we have no say in how they develop it. And I personally find it quite worrying. There is one on the other end of Brentford which has been developed very badly. And we hope that in Great West House they can do better, but we don't have any control over it.
I can't understand that. How can you? I mean, it makes no sense. What is the legal?
It's the law. It's the law made by the department for whatever it's called.
Is it because it's permitted development?
What used to be the housing development. They changed the rules some years ago because they want to encourage offices to be turned into houses.
I think Reece went. Oh, sorry. Go on, go.
I mean, the other thing, Hounslow have been trying to put something called a Section 4 condition, which gives us a bit control over it, but they changed the rules, and we can't do that for this one.
Sorry, is they the government? I think someone else wants to.
So I think Reece just wants to come in on this.
Yeah, just to back up Guy, really. In the, I think it was about 2015, 16, in the pursuit of numbers over quality, the previous government did introduce, they weakened permitted development rights, basically, so you could convert office buildings without having to go through council planning departments. So we're not very happy about that because, as Guy mentions, there are a number of conversions which have been done pretty shoddily, including one in our ward that's been no end of problems. We don't like it. We'd quite like the permitted development rights to go away and for government to look at that, hopefully as part of their changes they're looking at to the planning system now. It's not ideal. It doesn't work for us. It doesn't give us any control, and it means that you can just come in and convert a building to much lower standards than the planning regulations would have new builds held to. So unfortunately that is the situation.
Okay, I understand.
Just wait for the microphone, and I'll let you come back on one supplementary, and then as you've had 3 questions.
Seriously, all I want is reassurance that the Hounslow's legal team are in touch with whichever government department it is that has the end say on this kind of development.
It's existing legislation, it's the law.
So there's no government department that has oversight. It's like a Freeport situation in the middle of Brentford, yeah?
What the rule is that they don't need planning permission.
Yeah, so it's like a Freeport, mini Freeport.
Okay, gentleman down here at the front, making Shazna work for it.
Thank you. John Hughes, Brentford Dock. I'd like to ask you, can you confirm that part of the riverside on Brentford Dock is public open space? And are you committed to allowing public access to this public open space?
Thank you for your question, and thank you for advance notice of your question. That allowed me to get a response from, was it Phil? Do you want to say it first? Catherine is the council's representative on Brentford Dock Limited. So I'm just going to let her have a look at that first. Okay, so the formal response from Phil Cresswell, and I think Catherine's going to jump in, is to the extent that it can be evidenced that the riverside is in fact designated as public open space, Hounslow Council would be committed to allowing public access. Catherine, did you want to?
I mean, that's essentially the position. Yes, it's a bit of a. There's obviously different views from residents about what they would like to see there, but that sets out the council's position. It's a legal point of view. Is this designated as public open space? And that is something that lawyers are looking at. And then there's also what is our position in an ideal world, and obviously when new developments come along, there is always public space protected, particularly riverside space, and many of the new developments do have that public access to the riverside built into that. That obviously didn't happen at the time that, or not through the mechanisms we know today, the planning mechanisms when Brentford Dock was built. So I think it's something that lawyers are looking at, and as Dan says, if that's the position, then it's something we're committed to.
Thank you, Catherine.
Do you have a lease on part of Brentford Dock?
So the council has a lease for some of the blocks, but not the land. No.
Can you confirm that, because we have contracts which
Sorry,
show that
we're
you
just
do have
if you
a
want to speak, please raise your hand and please use the mic. I'll give you one more supplementary, and then we're going to just let everyone have a chance to speak.
The London Residuary Body published a public notice when they disposed of the public open space on Brentford Dock in 1990, and they gave the public the preserved right of public access to Brentford Dock. You have all those documents. Can you confirm that there was a public notice given in 1990 that there was public open space on Brentford Dock, and it preserved the right of public access?
So I can't.
And that was the condition of the disposal of the Brentford Dock estate.
So that's what's being looked at.
Any other questions? Steve.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name's Steve Sargent. I am a Theatre and Development Director and proud Brentford resident, a member of Brentford Arts Works. Can councillors give an indication of timelines relating to the now dilapidated Waterman's Arts Centre site, particularly with reference to future use ahead of the delayed new Arts Centre?
The short answer is no. So we've just, Hounslow Arts Trust have just surrendered the lease. So at this stage, we're doing surveys, we're looking at the state of the building, and we are exploring the possibility of meanwhile use, as you know, and many in this room know. The key issue is the new arts centre on the police station site, which has been beset by multiple challenges. But it's my view that's the only way forward for a functioning, vibrant arts centre in Brentford, is the new one on the police station site. And that's what we're all pushing for, not just the councillors in this room, but the leader, the deputy leader, cabinet member for culture, and multiple officers. So I'm hoping that there might be some kind of update on the viability of that scheme towards the end of this year, but to a degree, that's the best option. I don't know if anyone else wants to comment on that. So, yes, the lady down here, just behind you on your left.
Hello again. Well, I'm a senior citizen. Obviously, it is very important for me to have a day center. Now, as we don't get any warm home discount, we're going to be very cold in our house. So I'm not going to stay daytime in my house because I won't be able to pay my heating bill. Are you going to provide for a citizen, senior citizens, a community room where they can spend their daytime?
Thank you, that's a really good question. I know last winter we ran the Warm Spaces network, and we're planning to do that again, I'm sure.
I mean, where can I go, you know?
Yeah, I believe we do provide warm spaces, so we're probably looking at the community hubs to provide that. So there's one in Brentford.
I can't hear you.
There's a community hub in Brentford, and then Cranford and Feltham, and we're going to be using those. Quite often libraries are used as warm spaces as well. So I don't know exactly which ones, but we'll communicate that with the community nearer the time when they're confirmed.
Library is not ideal because it's not open every day. It's not a comfortable place.
Well, can you leave your details with Emily behind you, and we'll follow up on some targeted information on that. And I think we've got a question over here.
Hello there, Bob Ayres. I'd like to ask, I can't see Councillor Balraj again. As usual, he doesn't turn up, but I assure you he turns up for his money. And on a day when your party has taken away money from the old and the cold, how do you guys feel about that? Do you think that maybe Councillor Balraj ought to pack it in and we have a little election and get somebody that wants to do the job?
Thank you for your question. I'm not going to comment on another councillor. They're responsible for themselves. I'm responsible for myself and what I do, but all councillors are ultimately responsible to the electorate. But I'm not going to make a comment on another councillor. There's a question at the back.
Good evening. My name is Adriana Hoyos. I have to... Hello. Hi. My name is Adriana Hoyos. I have to congratulate you for all the new developments and plans, but I would like to mention about the old developments and or current residents that is still in Brentford. I'm talking about the corridor with the towers, Brentford Towers. I've been reaching or trying to reach to you all for the last 6-7 months. It's becoming so frustrating that my communication is not getting anywhere.
Is this on Green Dragon Lane, the towers?
Correct.
What's the issue?
The issue is that we want to become actually part of the community itself. Brentford is part of the community. I have the pleasure to meet a few months ago few of the councillors, yes. But apart from that, no answers. We want to get some attention. We are feeling like begging you to listen to us, to try to get a little bit better the situation with the corridor of Green Dragon Lane or Brentford Towers. It's been extremely difficult to reach you or to get answers or to get to participate in any sense in all of this.
Well, I'm sorry that's been frustrating, and thank you for coming here with your question. I think Marina wants to jump in on that.
Yeah, hi, thank you. We met ourselves and we went on a community walk, didn't we? Your casework, as it is, because this was casework, to create a new community tenants association, that was sent to our engagement team, and so the communication should be between yourselves and the engagement team to make this happen. After the meeting tonight, I'll come and speak with you to see why you're not getting anywhere with this.
Sorry, yeah. I don't know what to say, to be honest, because it's been taking more than 6 months, according to the email.
There's already an existing tenants association already in place, although it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. another tenants association cannot take place until that one has completely disbanded, and so it's legal stuff.
Sorry but that's not right. We discussed about that already, and we are surprised that the previous tenants association was closed already without any revision or anything or any accounts.
Legally speaking, it hasn't closed. Yes, they're not active, but the background activities, the paperwork, the legal stuff, that's not disbanded.
I got communications with the trust.
Just for the benefit of the room, I think otherwise it's going to be a back and forth.
Absolutely.
So I see it's an important issue, and I know Marina Rose will chase it up, but I think it's probably better for a one-on-one conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for your question. Yes, just gentleman over here. Just wait for the mic if you would. On your left.
My name is David Hahn from Brentford Dock. My particular interest relates to the Watermans and the old police station site. You say that there's problems encountered in trying to deal with it, but getting down to the nuts and bolts, is it related to the ownership of the two sites?
No, it's not. Reece, did you want to come in on that?
I'm trying to remember now from last year. It's viability. Its viability is what it is. So like a lot of schemes that got permission several years ago, a lot has changed. And I know that this comes up a lot in this forum, but interest rates went up. So mortgages went up, borrowing went up, labour costs have gone up. A lot of people who used to work on construction sites left after a particular event we won't talk about. Resource costs have gone up. So a lot of things that there was a viable scheme, it's got harder. So you've also at the point where a lot of developers struggle to borrow. Also, where they can't sell the houses at the price point they can build them for at the cheapest because people can't get the mortgages because interest rates have gone up. Right. So there's a lot of different factors going on, but fundamentally it's trying to rework a scheme to make it viable. And then you also have the Building Safety Act and second staircases. So various changes to policy that have to be incorporated into previously consented schemes to make them work again, and that costs more. If you add in a second stair core, you're taking out a whole bunch of space that was previously valuable, saleable site on the building, and you're giving it over to a staircase, right? So all of these things have to be factored in and redesigned in. But I think Dan might be close to it, but my understanding as well from colleagues is we are making progress on this. It is moving in the right direction, and it's just one of these things. It takes time. We've got developments here that are not going to be done until my 2-year-old's at uni, hopefully. So it takes time, and that's where we are.
But you've had the police station site vacant for 10 plus years?
Yeah, it's annoying.
Has the council got no powers to enforce the owners to look at alternative temporary uses for the premises? And we do have a housing problem. Could it not be used as a temporary housing stock if it's made safe, a part of it?
I'm not an expert on these things, but I think if you look at that building and you look at the state it's in, I think the costs involved with making that building anywhere near habitable simply wouldn't be worth the outlay. But it's a good question, and I'm happy to take it back to colleagues who would know better. But I don't think that's going to be viable. We need to get the police station down as soon as possible. As far as I'm concerned, it's an absolute eyesore and just not a very useful building. And it's in a prime site, and it should be something better. I think it should be an arts centre.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got Asif and then Andy. Asif.
Thank you, Dan. My question is, in Brentford, there are people with disability living in inaccessible housing. So how far does it take to get these people to their basic rights of living in accessible housing in Brentford?
I can jump in. I mean, you're right. Everyone deserves to be housed accessibly in a way that meets their needs. And there are lots and lots of people in this borough, including in Brentford, who are living in unacceptable housing conditions, whether that's related to a disability that they have, that their housing is not suitable for, or whether it's the fact that they're overcrowded or that the housing they're living in is, damp, not fit for purpose. There are a lot of people living in those conditions, and it's why we are very focused on getting more housing delivered, and particularly, for us, for many of our residents, we need council housing or we need social rented housing that people can afford. We are focused on that as a borough, across the borough, including in Brentford, and we have new council housing that is being delivered. People are moving in or about to move into the new block on the High Street, and we have other sites as well. So all this contributes to being able to get people suitably housed. It's not something that we can do overnight.
Andy, right to that. There you go. And then it's Julie next, and then just keep your hand up if you've got another question.
Thanks very much. I'm Andy Ward. I chair the Brentford Safer Neighbourhoods team, or the Ward panel, which is working with the police locally. But that's just a plug about me, sorry. 2 questions, if I may, just on the gift that keeps on giving, the Arts Centre. One for Reece. I assume the viability means that the blocks have to be bigger, and that's the work that's going on at the moment with the developer to work out, is it got to be 25% bigger, 30% bigger, how much bigger? So that's the first question. The second one's a statement, probably more than anything, but I know I've been working with some of you on the team that the site is not secure. The owners of the site are doing a shocking job at keeping it secure, but not only that, it's an eyesore. If we're going to have another 10 years of that site being like that it is at the moment, why don't they take up my idea, which is trying to create some sort of art around the outside, some hoarding that goes all the way around the outside. I think the local authority, the councillors with the local authority really need to talk a lot more to the owners of the site. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Well, on the statement, I think we're all agreed with you on this, and I think Guy and Emma and others. I think we've had this conversation and we all agree we should do that. So on your other point, you're trying to draw me on how a building may change when I'm not actually involved in any of the discussions about how that building may change. They don't necessarily have to go up. There are lots of buildings where you've got basement levels that can come out. That saves a lot of money. There are lots of different ways you can rework a scheme to make it viable. You can do things with more housing or the type of housing. There's a lot of things you can do. I don't know, but based on the fact this went to the Secretary of State, I think, and it was to do with the height. So I think we're pretty stuck in terms of getting them in terms of coming forward with something that would go higher, given that was a real sticking point and required a call into the Secretary of State before. So I'm guessing not.
And just to say, I think that's if it is going to be medium term not being used, I think artwork's a great idea. I don't know if any of the Brentford West councillors have a view on that.
Hi Andy, it's nice to see you again. Would you like to chat after, just so that I can get some details off you? I can take this on a casework. Say that again, sorry?
Guy's got all the information. I've been emailing Guy, and Guy's been very good at emailing the team back at the local authority. So I'm happy to meet you all. The guy's got all the info.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But if we could just have a quick chat, that'd be great.
You can have a chat with me. That's absolutely fine.
Thank you.
And we'd welcome you at the next ward panel meeting as well. So if you've got time to come, that'd be great.
Of course I will.
Guy.
In terms, if you're talking about, I didn't quite capture you talking about the police station or Waterloo.
Police station.
The police station, you and I had an exchange a few weeks ago. It is now much more secure. It's much more secure. Well, I think it is.
There's more graffiti. There's more graffiti on the top of the building, so that means it's not secure. I look at it, so I can tell you.
You're right that there are windows upstairs that have been open for years.
Well, they don't fly up to the top of the building. They must get in at the lower level of the building, mustn't they?
I don't think they can get in now, but...
Well, there's new graffiti at the top of the building. I can see it from my garden, so, you know.
I actually asked for it to be hoarded, and what they've done is they've the door that was open has been closed, and I mean, it's a bit more than closed. You couldn't get in that way. So I think it's quite secure, but by all means, let's go and have a look at it. And
no Banksies have appeared on it yet. Then we wouldn't be able to knock it down at all. Julie, you've been waiting patiently, and then just to your left.
Yeah. This is an ongoing one. Now, I brought this up last year, well into last year. Great West Road, it seems to have died a death. I think you've all forgotten there is still a part over the other side of the Great West Road. The traffic is you need a visa to come from Ealing Road over to South Ealing Road, because you get 3 cars coming from Ealing Road over, and that's it. Then there's still the traffic that comes from the Great West Road. It takes 20 minutes to get from Tesco's down to Ealing Road. It seems to have just got lost. And the other thing that I have brought up, Clayponds Avenue, Chestnut Avenue, turning right. We nearly had a child run over the other week, and still nearly a year, if not longer, I have brought this up. At this committee, nothing is being done. We are forgotten again.
Marina, I think, wants to come in on that.
Hello, Julie. The no right turn that you're talking about, it is actually being looked into by our transport team. It's been raised a few times by myself as casework, by other residents as well. I'm in the ward at least 3 times a week. I separate myself, and Reece also. We separate ourselves between Haverfield and then obviously over on Clayponds as well. Actually, we was out knocking doors a couple of weekends ago, actually, and it was Clayponds that we were doing it in. So we are very present within the ward, and we are very. I can't think of the word, but. We're active, and if I get an email, we get a telephone call, we're on it straight away, and that's how it should be. And I'm sorry that you feel this way still.
So it's just there on the right, and we've got 1, 2, Tony.
Hello, I'm Norman Hayes, resident on the Syon estate. We heard from Ballymore earlier with an update on the Brentford project and what's coming next in terms of retail and leisure opening up. Obviously, we have the new council block on the high street as well with the retail units there. When can we expect to hear about what's coming there? And will these new openings add value to the high street in terms of making it a bit more of a destination? Because a lot of people still need to go to Ealing, Chiswick, elsewhere for their shopping. Also, when can we know more about Lidl occupying the old Morrison site? Do we know when that's due to open up?
Thank you. So I think, is it an Aldi? Is it Aldi on the old Morrison site? Last time I checked, they were in planning permission to sort of, I think, Guy will come in on that. In terms of Block D, the council and the team they're working with are coming to sort of the end of the initial round of negotiations of who gets to go in. It's something they're working hard on. I'd expect hopefully to know something this year in terms of tenants. I appreciate it does seem like a long process, but these things take a lot of time. And when you're rejuvenating a high street, I think it's worth taking the time getting it right, or getting it as close to right as we can. Guy, did you want to come in?
As slow as possible. It is awful that block has been standing empty for the last 8 months. Retail and residential. So it actually looks like a scandal.
Thank you for your comment, Rob. Just duly noted.
You know what I felt?
I do. I'm just going to let Guy come in.
Yeah, I mean, I actually agree with you, Bob, about but I'm told that people are moving in. I haven't seen them moving in yet, but I'm told they are. That the houses on Windmill Road, which were empty also for a long time, they are not. They now have families in them, so that's good news. In terms of the old Morrison site, that has been, a lease has been taken out on that by Lidl. Lidl have put in a planning permission to improve it, which mainly, as far as I can see, it's some changes to the car park area because it's not compliant with current regulations, but mainly to put some windows in along the high street, which I think is a great improvement. That was supposed to be decided in August, but that's been put back, and I think they're saying September the 15th, the last time I looked, to get that agreed. And I know Lidl are keen to move in later in this year. They want to get on with it for obvious reasons. They're paying rent on it and rates at the moment, so I'm getting no income.
So just to, on Block D, yes, it's taken a long time and it is very frustrating. There are obviously various regulations, safety, fire, sign-off things that all have to happen, and connections to utilities and so on. I was hoping that council tenants would be moving in by now. I believe that may be happening next month. In terms of the retail, as Dan has said, some of those offers to tenants have started to be made, and the strategy there for Block D is about having a unique offer for Brentford, and with the initial focus being on local Brentford businesses, as many of you will know, some of those that are being displaced from Albany Parade, but also other local businesses. That's all happening now, and with the idea to kind of create a good mix, but certainly, that emphasis on local. That doesn't mean to say we won't end up with any chains or national businesses in there, but they will come in later on. It's starting with that local offer.
Thank you, Catherine. Gentleman at the back there.
Oh, thank you. Hello.
Sorry, can I ask if you've got a question, if you could just pop your hand up just so I can see.
Yep.
One here. Okay, sorry, please go ahead.
Hello. My question is with regard to the Waterlands Arts Centre. As I understand it, there's going to be a survey done quite soon with regard to the state of the building, so that a decision can be made about meanwhile use. When is this survey being done?
I think it's beginning soon. If you take my details afterwards, I'll find out exactly. And
okay, because my point is, and sure, this is where time is of the essence. And I'm a builder. I've been in the industry for the last 40 years, and everybody knows in the industry that when you have water leaking into the building, it destroys the fabric of the building. And the Arts Centre was closed in about 8 months ago now, I think, so 6 or 8 months ago. And since then, it's been empty, and no survey has been done up to now. We've just had a very dry summer, and we're coming into autumn, and time is of the essence. And so I know that the senior members of the council actually would love to see it bulldozed. And that, the idea is, forget about being an art centre, it's going to be a development which is going to be for flats.
The idea is definitely to relocate to a state-of-the-art, more efficient, better art centre. Yes,
well, when you say more
right.
efficient and better, I think you'll find that the local populace would prefer to be by the most beautiful space in West London, where the best views, where Richard Attenborough used to come and do his drawings, and where people would love to have their children do the nativity plays, etc., rather than being in the middle of Brentford. But this is a question of, are we making a big lot of money by selling this wonderful asset in the most fantastic space, which the people have enjoyed for many years, and give that to make the money out of that, make a one-off sale, and put the money into the public purse, and meanwhile, this facility then goes into a lousy place rather than a beautiful place.
So just so there's time for other questions.
On the money, yes, it is to make a load of money so that we can build a state-of-the-art arts centre. So absolutely.
Are you aware of the fact that most people in Brentford would rather that the arts centre stays where it is?
No, I'm not aware of that. I don't know why you would think that particularly.
Oh, God,
I know
no,
some people would definitely
we've done surveys.
I know some people definitely are of that view, and lots of people have said that to me, but it's certainly not the only view.
Well, we've been out in the street and we'll find that 1 person in 100 would go with the police station.
I'd like to see some evidence.
Okay, we're going to avoid a back and forth
sure,
here.
Sure.
I've heard your points. I know Rhys wants to come in, and then we're going to go to this gentleman here. So just let Rhys answer, then we'll go to you.
Well, my question really, in essence, is why is it that we're doing a survey on the fabric of the building now or in a month's time,
we understand the question.
Rather than in the spring?
Listen to the answer. Listen to the answer.
Thank you. Let's have the answer.
So, Dan's already said he's going to come back to you on the specifics. He's now on the board of Waterman, so I seem to have lost that poison chalice. But when I was on it, what I understood to be true, and what I still know to be true from talking to Dan, is that before the council could go in and do things, Hounslow Arts Trust had to relinquish the lease, which they have only just done within the last month, 2 months, less than a month, sorry. And then, of course, in terms of doing the building surveys we needed, it really wasn't very helpful that we had squatters in the site in the period immediately after the fire, when all the water damage had been done, when actually the building really needed to get the care and attention it needed, and no one could do that because we had to go through the whole rigmarole of getting the squatters out of the building. That was very unhelpful, particularly for those who wanted meanwhile use, because it meant that we couldn't get into, and the Arts Trust, who had the lease, couldn't get into the building to do the work they needed to do. That wasn't helpful.
Well,
there are delays, but there are very good reasons, and a fire and squatters and the relinquishing of the lease being 3 of them.
Thank you, Rhys.
I just must answer that point here.
You've had 6 questions already.
The fact is
this gentleman here hasn't spoken at all. Sir, could you please
Thank
give your
you.
question?
Thank you.
The fact is the squatters fixed the roof. The squatters fixed the roof.
Keep going with your question. We'll listen.
Don Hayward,
Absolute
north
rubbish.
of the A4, traffic on the A4 again, question, which I think was left behind from an earlier question raised by the lady behind us. The traffic is intolerable. A couple of forums ago, I raised this question and was told, it all appears to be down to the phasing of the lights on that South Ealing Road A4 roundabout, which is frankly daft. And I was told that, because we had a representative of Hounslow Highways on the front table at the time, that no, they weren't going to adjust or play with the phasing of the lights while the pier repairs were going on. The pier repairs have finished, all the lanes are back open, we've still got the traffic problem. And there has to be a better solution than forcing all the southbound traffic to, the southbound traffic to pass first, then the northbound traffic, and then opening it to the A4 again, because that's creating a massive tailback, which affects all the roads feeding in as well, particularly my road. Traffic blocks up 200, 300 yards north up that road in peak times, and it's just not good for the environment, everybody's time, ambulances are delayed, something's got to happen.
Thank you. I think Catherine wants to come on this.
Thanks, Don, and I know we've had conversations about this. So yeah, it's TfL that control the traffic lights and the roundabout. And you're quite right. They said that they were not going to do anything with the phasing while those works were going on. Since those works have stopped, I believe they've been monitoring the situation as a precursor to looking at what changes might be made. What they've said quite equivocally is that it's not going to go back to the previous phasing. That is no longer considered legal. They're going to look at more tweaks rather than going back wholesale to that. They have also said that they will look at a redesign, and I know we've discussed about redesign, perhaps a complete redesign of that junction as well. I haven't heard from TfL recently on either of those points, but that's something I'll go back to them and find out where they're up to.
Thank you. Question. We've got a question from Ruby. I think I might have an idea what it's on, but go ahead.
It's not really a question. Yes, Ruby Almeida.
Sorry, Ruby. Sorry, just stop. I think Councillor Lambert wants to comment on that last issue. Can you hold on one second?
I just want to say something about that, the roundabout. What Catherine says is true, and I don't disagree with that. But what I've got another bit of knowledge, because when I was first a councillor about 8-9 years ago, there was a redesign of that roundabout to mean that north-south people could go over what is now the middle of the roundabout. That went to the TfL board and was refused. So it was known 8 years ago that roundabout was not right. The reason I'm coming up with it is I think we need to be pushing them to actually get a proper solution to that, because the solution at the moment is it has very bad impact on all kinds of things, and they insist that it's the only legal solution with the current layout. I'm sure they're right. I don't know about road laws. But it needs to be fixed. It's terrible for pedestrians and cyclists as well. Anyway.
Thank you, Guy. Ruby.
Yeah, thank you. So it's not really a question, and perhaps I'm being a bit opportunistic, but given the amount of times the Arts Centre has been mentioned and the care for it, I think it's opportune for me to say that we've actually got a meeting here on Thursday about the arts provision in Brentford, and we'd really appreciate people coming and telling us what they want, what they think is missing in terms of art, because frankly everything is missing. I appreciate we've had the festival, we've had the Everyman Cinema, but in terms of accessible arts for people, we don't have that, and we really want to talk to people about it. And yes, there has been a huge support for the Arts Centre as it was. I mean, we would love to have meanwhile use. I understand there are delays, but we want to know what we can do in the meantime while we're waiting for meanwhile use. So please, if anyone can come for the meeting on Thursday here in this venue, please come and tell us what you think, because we're obviously also going to be talking to the council about this. And by the way, we have leaflets, so if you'd like to pick one up on your way out, please do. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruby. And you neglected to tell people the time, which I believe is 6:30 is the meeting here. I've booked my ticket on Eventbrite. I'd encourage everyone else to turn up to, it's Brentford Artworks, I believe is the name. Is that right? Any other questions? Cup of tea. We're all in favour of that. Tony. And then just 2 on. I can't see those.
Good evening, Tony Firkins here. I just want to raise the fact that the local plan is now out for consultation, and this is out for consultation until the end of October. Inside this local plan is the site allocations, and this covers a lot of the sites we've been talking about, whether it's the Brentford Arts Centre and whether it's talking about other developments. 2 that have not been mentioned yet this evening, which are covered in this document, are the Brentford Fountain Leisure Centre, which in the wording in the local plan does not guarantee that leisure centre will exist. And so I would encourage people to put in responses to the consultation to ensure that our opinions are known about this. The other one is the Brentford Group Medical Centre, which again is slated for development. It's not clear whether there'll be a gap of time where that will not exist. So really, please do engage in this consultation, and perhaps the councillors up front would like to say something about the Fountain Leisure Centre and reassure us that we're not going to be losing that for any time, or if there is a gap, how long that gap would be. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Yes, I mean, some people will be aware that there was some information put in the public domain about potential redevelopment of the Brentford Fountain Leisure Centre. It is the leisure centre that requires re-providing. And the intention absolutely is to re-provide it. It's coming to the end of its serviceable life. It is not, it's not up to the standards that we expect from our leisure centres. But anyone who did see the report that was put into the public domain will see that the intention is to re-provide a leisure centre there. That site will be able to provide other things that we need as a community as well. But there are absolute, there's no design, there's no firm plans yet. But I can guarantee you that there will continue to be a leisure centre. Yes, obviously, if there's some redevelopment there, that would mean a period of time when the old one had to be closed before a new one was re-provided. I'm afraid I can't give you any timescale on that. With the medical centre, it's certainly the intention that there would be continuous provision of a medical centre, even if there was a temporary relocation.
Thank you. Any other questions? It's this lady in green first, and then two at the back.
Hello. I was just wondering, actually, that... so my name is Ellie Syon. With the fact that we've got such an excellent football team in Brentford, is there maybe an opportunity where we could ask the community of Brentford FC to do maybe a lottery or a ballot for local residents to win or get football seats if their postcode was maybe offered like they do with Twickenham Stadium? I know that Isleworth residents can put their postcodes into a ballot and win rugby tickets. So I just wondered if something could be suggested to Brentford for local residents in Brentford, because obviously football team tickets are expensive and families, I'm sure in some of the local areas would love to go.
Well,
So.
I think the most important thing to say on this first is Brentford do an insane amount of stuff in the community, but I'm going to let our resident Brentford FC biggest fan, Rhys Williams, give a response.
Thanks, Dan. Well, I think firstly I would make the point, as far as Premier League's tickets go, it's actually incredibly cheap and good value. I think it's still less than 20 quid a ticket for, on average if you have a season ticket. If you would like to go, do try and get on the membership so you can get on the waiting list. The problem is the waiting list. Is it me? Yeah. Okay. That was interesting.
I just meant for maybe families.
I was just going to say the trust, I believe the club hold back about 450 tickets a game, which they give out free for a whole bunch of different, mainly through the Brentford FC Community Sports Trust. I think they hold some back for hospitality guests or things like that, but there are routes to get them. The trust will often, I think, give them to groups and community groups that they work with, and they provide the youth services across the borough on behalf of the council, and they do thousands of sessions. They work with tens of thousands of kids and deliver tens of millions of value in social value back to the community. So that's how they give them out. I don't know if they've got a ballot, but I'm more than happy to mention it to the club in some form. But there is quite a lot of opportunities to get tickets from the club, and I'm happy to speak afterwards if you'd like to get in touch with them.
I'd suggest take Rhys's details, and he can forward your ideas, which do sound interesting, onto senior level rather than just finding an email on the website. I think it's a great idea. We had two at the back who haven't spoken. Then Julie. Any other hands? No. Go ahead.
So my question was just about the redevelopment of the Brentford Leisure Centre. I didn't know that was under consideration. Do you know if the plan includes still includes a swimming pool, basically? As a new resident of Brentford, that was the one thing I found the area to be lacking.
Repeat the question.
Does the plan for potential redevelopment of the leisure centre, the Fountain Leisure Centre, include a swimming pool? Okay.
I mean, we don't have the formal plans.
Sure, yeah,
I
theoretically.
would be flabbergasted if it didn't, and I would argue strongly against it, as I'm sure would every resident of Brentford and every councillor. My main thing is that they have a wave machine in it, because that's I've got some core childhood memories of that.
I'm a fan.
But that's the understanding is to provide a new leisure centre with a swimming pool, with everything. But we don't have any detailed plans yet. We're going to go through a quite intense consultation with residents about what they want and what facilities they want. And I'm sure everyone will say we want a swimming pool, and I'd encourage you to be involved in that process as well.
Certainly. I'll just add one final comment. The problem with the current swimming pool is it doesn't seem to be suitable for fitness training. It's not long enough, lanes are kind of funny, too shallow, that kind of thing. There doesn't seem to be a suitable alternative in Brentford, and so I'm interested in that as a...
Thank you, and as I say, please do feed your thoughts into the consultation process when that comes through. If you want to make sure that you're definitely informed of that, speak to any of the staff or any of the councillors, and we'll make sure that that's directed on. And then it's the gentleman behind you, I believe.
Thank you, Nick Sadler, Hounslow resident for a long time. I was really, although Hadley are not here, but I was really kind of encouraged to hear that they had some thought about community needs and specifically making the discussion available for arts on their part. That was really good to see that. I'd like to see something similar from the council, if that's possible, on all these areas, and I wondered if the council would maybe consider going out in some kind of consultation to the whole borough about how they feel about the arts, how they feel about the provision for the arts. I'm really interested in the fact that it would be really nice not to lose a high level of arts provision and have the police station ready. If it's going to be a great arts centre, then great, that's great if we can push that on. But the word viability that you use many times can be, I agree with it, can be used for many things. I just wanted to link it to infrastructure. The infrastructure has been spoken about, GP and schools, etc., and we never know, well, often we don't know until towards the end what's going to happen. And I take the point about, reduction in class sizes and reduction in classes as well. And I'm sorry I didn't ask this earlier, but I didn't get in there. But when they were talking about the car parking spaces, which is a completely different subject, the estimate was from Tesco's that they only use 2/3, 400 of 650. But if there are 2,150 properties coming on, we have 3,000 to 4,000 tenants coming in. So to reduce it and make provision of 400 might not be enough. And I wondered, how much, if the council, it's really a question, if the council can push infrastructure, push and influence that kind of thing. GPs and schools as well. Thank you. Sorry, it was a long question and a bit mixed up.
No problem. I know Reece wants to come in.
So there'll be, I don't actually know whether there's parking for residents, but that's not included in that number. So that 400 spaces that she's talking about is for Tesco. We wouldn't want to be pushing as a council for more car parking spaces because what we want is more people travelling sustainably, using public transport, walking, cycling, and there was talk about improved bus routes, and that's where we'd want to concentrate our efforts because we, frankly, there are too many cars in the borough, and we need to be reducing car use in order to meet our goals around air quality, around environment, and also people's health. Now, of course, we know lots of people are still going to want to drive to the supermarket, and so that's why there will be car parking space and car parking provision there. But in terms of increasing capacity, we would be looking to those more sustainable modes of transport. And of course, the people living on the site won't be needing to drive to Tesco.
Reece.
Yeah, just to back up Catherine's point, there is a lot of investment that goes in with these local schemes. I think we've talked about this before when we've had the section on SIL S106 monies, tens of millions of pounds that is being invested in various things. You didn't mention health, but one of them is health. We're giving money towards the new diagnostic centre at West Mid. through seal payments from developers. As part of Brentford Lock West Phase 2, where I live, the Metro Line bus garage has been completely rebuilt and reprovided to modern standards. That's probably a £10 million investment in the bus network. We're looking at the West London Orbital Railway Line, working with TfL on that. That's likely to come forward. That will provide direct route through up to Wilston Junction and things. You know, unfortunately, sometimes TfL time and Network Rail time works on a slightly slower clock than other times. So as we've been talking about tonight, development can often take decades. There's a lot of stuff being planned on this, but as Catherine says, planning for transport infrastructure doesn't mean planning for more cars on the road. You build more roads, you get more cars, and there's nowhere in London to build more roads. So, you know, that's not the way you're going to get a growing population that's going on in London that's gone up from 8 to 10 million. I think we're over now. Those people are not going to have 2 cars on a driveway outside their house, like my parents did. I don't have a car. I've got a kid and a partner. We live in a house, and I can get around just fine. It's one of the reasons I live in Brentford. It's got great public transport connections. That's going to be the future, I'm afraid, because it's just not going to be possible to get everyone around if they think the car is the only way they can do it. We're going to have to invest in all the other modes. And
Thank you, Rhys. Julie?
Yeah, I just want to reply back to the lady that was in the green about Brentford Football Club. I don't know where these tickets go to, Rhys, but they must go corporate, because they certainly do not go round to residents around the area. Schools aren't getting them, we don't get them, so I don't know where Brentford community gets them now.
I'm sure if you asked Graham, he'd help you out. Honestly, they
Well,
give them out to local groups all the time. You should ask him.
Well, he doesn't reply back.
I think what I will say is Brentford Football Club aren't here. We're not here to defend or attack them. I think that's a question for Brentford. As I've said, we're happy to support residents in getting those questions through, but they are an independent organisation. And Catherine's made a great point. We could invite the club to a future area forum if people would be interested in that. Alberto.
Hi, good evening. My name is Alberto. I'm a local resident at Marketplace in Brentford. We have a big issue with the double yellow lines, which are basically, my understanding is, not to park or not to stop. After 7 o'clock, it seems to become a parking zone. This has been reported to the council and to highways. We had an incident yesterday with a young kid nearly run over outside the market building because someone was actually parking on the pavement. A police officer basically drove by, nothing was done, probably because he was on a call somewhere else. But I think double yellow lines, they're not being supported. They're there, but no one's actually monitoring them.
Yeah, please email the details to me as a question. We'll speak with enforcement, see how many PCNs have been given there, and see if there's an argument to put more resources down there, because people parking illegally is not okay. 100%. Any other questions? Over here.
Back to the line bikes. Is there any way that they can be marked? I walk my dog every day in Boston Manor Park. There's an old lady that comes with me. We walk round together. And 2 days ago, she got knocked over by a line bike. The guy didn't stop. He stopped for a minute and picked his stuff up. She's hurt. She can't walk. I went to knock and see if she's walking her dog tonight. No. But she can't identify the person that done it. So I phoned Lime and I said, I thought your bikes were tracked. So you must know who was riding the bike. Oh, sorry, there were 4 other bikes in the area at the time. Now, we have to put up with them dumped all over the place. And if you're a person in a wheelchair or a person on crutches, these things are dumped everywhere. I know you put your bays there with your anti-car thing, that's fine. But you've got to do something about these bikes. So it's Catherine, isn't it? I mean, you proffered this, so could you look into it? Do you think it could be marked? You know, if there had a number on it, you'd know which bike hit you.
I think, so, I mean, there's arguments about whether bicycles, e-bikes, etc. should have licence plates come up quite a lot. I don't think there's any plans for that. No country in the world has done that. Well, so that, I mean, that... It's not... So, I mean, I think the same as any, you know, if anyone's in a collision with someone on a bicycle, whether that's e-bike or not, then obviously that person should stop and provide details. That's, yeah. So that, yeah. I mean, not, well, I didn't.
Okay, Reece wants to come in on this as well. Reece, go for it.
No, I mean, it's just moved into a general just criticism of Lyme and Catherine. I just want to say I think the policy's been a very big success in Brentford overall. We've had 93,000 journeys since it's been brought in the newest in the last month. Hold on a minute. Hold on, Bob. Sorry, you're not running this meeting. I think you'll find that Dan is. So why don't you listen to the answer rather than just shout? 93,000 journeys in the last month. I know from where I live, they are very well used by the residents who live in the area where I live. They are very popular. And we went to all the foray with it early on. People getting used to it. But people get used to it. People adapt to these schemes. Behaviour change happens. It doesn't happen overnight. But for the point you're raising in the park, there are bad drivers who injure people in cars. There are bad cyclists. There are bad pedestrians who don't know where they're going. All of this works when everyone starts paying more attention to each other. And we can't control all of those individual things. The point is the scheme works, it's popular, it's well used, and it is promoting active travel in the borough.
I'm going to let Guy have the last word, and then we're going to have to do a few formal things and close the meeting. But Guy, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, I'd want to say something about Lyme, because Lymes have been in Brentford for years. They were here for 3 or 4 years before we made any attempt to control them. And I had, in all the time that I was a Brentford councillor, I had one complaint about Lyme bikes until we started to control them, and I had hundreds. So I think it's a greatly exaggerated problem. I do think that. I mean, I cycle around Brentford all the time, and I see Lyme bikes. There's always a couple outside the station where they're not supposed to be there. But they don't cause any trouble. In the main, they're properly parked. So I don't think they're a problem. If I go along the high street, there's nearly always a car parked illegally, often on the zigzag lines. No, but it's always been like that, and nobody cares.
That has a registration number, and you know the culprit, and you can take action. But when you're hit by a green thing...
Yeah, but we don't, do we? I don't know whether you drive a car, but you go down to Morrison's, there's always somebody parked outside there. Often they have hazard lights on to say, I'm not really parked. They're not parked.
Thank you, Guy.
And that's much more of a danger to pedestrians and cyclists than Lyme ever is.
Thank you, Guy. I know we're scheduled to finish at 9:30. There are just a few things. We just need to agree the minutes held on the 29th of February 2024. Can all councillors agree? It says 24 on my piece of paper. Well, we can't agree the minutes of the meeting from 2025. Yes, so can we agree the minutes held on 29th of February 2024? Agreed? Agreed. No other urgent business. The date of the next scheduled meeting will be the 2nd of December 2024. When we have the venue, we'll let you know. But thank you everyone for coming, and all those people who we said speak to someone before you leave, don't forget, please do it. Thank you very much.